this is obviously exciting times, not only for us as an organization, but us as a city. And there's a lot of good vibes going on, but that's the reality of the world today. And so just we're thinking of him and everybody else that goes through that, not only in sports, but in everyday life. So, Ian, we're thinking about you if you're out there.
Is Steve part of practice at all day? Was he not even here?
He was not here.
When did you speak to him last? Is he feeling any better at all?
In terms of how he feels and where he is and all that stuff, Bob Myers will address that. But he and I are in constant communication all the time. We spoke. We obviously communicated via text yesterday, and then we spoke at length after the Utah Clippers game last night.
When you say Bob will address it, is he talking today about it? Or?
I don't know if Bob's talking today, but in terms of anything regarding him, Bob, I handle that just because I don't want all the mixed messages and stuff like that, and I don't necessarily know everything.
Mike, what's your experience with rest when you have a stretch like this where you're waiting on an opponent and you've got some guys who could use a little bit of healing time probably, but also it could be a lot of time.
Yeah, I've gone through this before, with teams in the past, and this team's a little different. The team that I went through with in the past, they were a little younger and not as experienced, especially come playoff time, and so we felt we need to be in the gym a little bit more. But with this group here, the continuity that the nucleus has and how intelligent the guys are, and they're big-time veterans that we've brought in. We feel that rest for their bodies and then mentally mental preparation is more important than coming in here and having practice on a daily basis.
You talked about with Steve after the game last night. Were you talking about different scenarios of how each of those teams looked like and who you expected to see as your opponent?
Yeah, Steve's going to be a part of this process all the time. And, really, almost before I do anything, I'm going to consult with him. The only time I won't consult with him during the game is probably during the game. At least, I don't want the NBA to know that I got a little chip right here that I can communicate with them in game situations. We'll keep that amongst us. But now, other than that, we talked about both teams. We talked about practice today. We talked about individual guys on our team and kind of laid a foundation for what we believe the rest of the week should be.
So you're
up until this
preparing
weekend.
for both teams right now?
Yes, we're preparing for both teams.
Mike, you've been his rotations guy all season. Are your rotations, his rotations now essentially the same, or do you have your own kind of rotation you might want to work in?
No, so when I was with Rick Carlisle, he showed me this tool called a minute sheet. And what it does is it allows you to plug guys in and actually visualize the rotation, in my opinion, very easy. And so, I brought that here, and that's something that we started using at the beginning of the season. And all it is a tool that you fill in going into each game as a guide. And so it was no different when Steve was, coaching the games. The biggest thing is it's not set in stone, it's not concrete. So as the flow of the game goes along, things may change based on matchups, who's playing well, who's not playing well, what they're doing. And so, again, I'm consulting with Steve, putting the minute sheet together before every game. But during the course of the game, we may need to do something different. And case in point is against Portland in Game 3, because JaVale played very well for us early on. So we played him a second stint in the first half. And then same in the second half. He played very well for us at the start, and we felt that they were having problems with his size and length and all that. So I put him in again down the stretch. Now, if you looked at my minute sheet, you'd only see JaVale for a 5-minute stretch at the end of the first quarter and another 5-minute stretch at the end of the third quarter. And then, from there, you just kind of go by gut feel and the rest of those things I talked about earlier. But Steve is a part of it, yeah.
Do you have someone now that can be you in this situation?
So I give a copy of the minute sheets basically to to JC and Q-Dog and those guys kind of remind me of where we are minutes-wise. I keep a copy in my pocket and try not to look at it too much because there are other things I need to concentrate on. And then, you know, we got Coach Adams. Coach Adams will definitely let me know if somebody's not defending and we need to get somebody else in that will.
Mike, when Steve hired you last summer, he talked about your experience and just being kind of the right-hand man, and nobody envisioned maybe this, but how much is the organization fortunate to have kind of a seamless transition here in the meantime?
Well, you know, it's one of those things you hope it's seamless, but you know, I know I feel fortunate to be here too. And I said this earlier, I've been coaching a long time. Funny part about it, even though Steve's older than me, a lot older than me, he's been coaching, you know, for 3 years now, and I've learned a ton from him in that short amount of time. Not just about X's and O's, but he's by far, you know, maybe Pop rivals it, but he's by far the best communicator that I've been around, and there's no way that I'll be able to emulate that or whatever. But it's a thing, just being here a year, having the veterans we have, and the staff that we have, and Bob, and how the communication has gone from Jump Street has made it, in my opinion, the seamless, you know, thing that you just said. But without all of that, I don't know if it would be as seamless.
What specifically makes Steve such a special communicator?
He's very intelligent. His memory is off the charts fantastic. Mine is terrible. And, you know, just he's a good people person. I mean, people enjoy being around him, and he enjoys being around people. And the last thing I would say is and this is kind of funny because he's a fiery guy, and I didn't know he was as fiery as he was, because when I coached him, you know, he was done then. He was just trying to figure out a way to collect money, and he did a good job of that. But so he was happy all the time. But with his fire, you know, it doesn't come out. When you talk to him or he gets on you, you don't necessarily feel threatened. And there's some coaches out there that even if they don't say a single word, just their mere presence, you feel threatened, you know. And when you feel threatened, everybody's human. A lot of times it means they're going to get defensive right away. And so that's not a great mix. And Steve is, I mean, his presence, he's very approachable at all times, and he's just got this calming presence or way about him that helps in his communication with not only the players but everybody else, in my opinion.
Mike, what do you do to counteract the emotion involving this, or kind of I'm sure there's a sadness that, you know, Steve's going through this. I mean, as you've just been saying, he's very beloved by his players. So there's got to be a thread of emotion through everything that's happening right now. Do you have to do anything to kind of keep that in check, or counteract it, or address it directly?
You know, Steve's addressed the team, you know, quite a bit, and I mean, he's a tough son of a gun, you know, and so, you know, he makes everything seem so normal because of who he is. And again, this is a veteran group, so we didn't need to do anything special, and we don't feel like we need to do anything special going forward.
But he's such a competitor. I mean, can you imagine feeling that lousy that you're away from your team at this time of year? You've got to feel for what he's going through, and it's.
No, everybody does, but again, and he is a competitor. But like I said, at the end of the day, you know, he's around. You know, his voice is definitely being heard, and you know, with this veteran group, everything basically is, in the veteran staff, everything basically stays the same.
Over here on the other side of Ann, I know you're not a doctor, but I'm curious as to what you observed about Steve during practices when he was here. Would he have to stop, sit down, wince? I mean, what kinds of things did you see that told you, hey, this guy's in discomfort here?
You know, I mean, going down that road, I'd rather just have Bob answer those questions. But anything like basketball related, I'll go ahead and you can fire away at me, and I'll answer. I just don't want to, again, like I said, give mixed messages or anything like that.
Mike, I mean, I know. this is a sensitive time, but do you have to presume you're coaching the next round?
Yeah, with what Bob has told me and what Steve has said, I'm going to coach until they tell me otherwise. So it's basically I'll just take it day by day and kind of go from there. And I've been here before, so for me that's a very easy thing to do.
Mike, Steve wants to be in the loop, of course. He needs rest. Is it hard for you ever to know where that line is, to like what to bug him about or what to talk to him about and when to just kind of let things go?
I mean, I feel like I can communicate with him at any time, and he can communicate with me at any time. So, if I need to call him, I'll pick the phone up and call him, and vice versa, or we'll shoot each other a text. So that's not an issue.
How have you seen Draymond take his game up even another notch since the playoffs began? And he takes pride in establishing things on defense for you guys to get everybody rolling.
Yeah, there have been a few times during this first round that he's actually been phenomenal. And it's funny to be able to have the impact on the game the way he has without scoring the basketball. And, he saved our behind a couple of times. And, what he brings to the table for us is very hard. Not many guys can do it. Like, for instance, if, we have three great scorers when you talk about KD, Steph, and Clay. And if one of them has an off night, we got two other guys that can step up to the plate. You have a guy like Draymond that does all those types of things, and which is hard. Probably the next closest to him is Andre, but a little different size-wise. So what he brings to the table is invaluable for us, and it's helped us win. It's going to continue to help us win, and it was great to see him shoot the ball the way he did in the last game, which I watch him shoot every day, and he's a very good shooter, and we're going to need more of that as the series goes along, especially if teams leave him open like the way that Portland did.